A jet engine creates sounds louder than a person whispering. What is whisper? Whisper is speaking quietly with your breath rather than using your breath rather than your throat, okay? So this is whispering, while this is speaking, using your throat. Loudness also depends on distance, so the distance decides the loudness. The farther sound travels, the less intensity it has. The farther, what does that mean, farther? Farther means more far, okay? So you can, there's a similar word. Further, what does that mean, further? Well, what's the difference? Further means greater in degree or intensity, okay? Further and farther. Farther means just the distance, okay? But further can mean any other amount, degree, intensity. The less intensity it has. Third, loudness is related to the medium the sound travels through. The loudness is related to. What does that mean, relate to? If something relates to something, it has some kind of a connection, okay? So it's affected by that, okay? Relates to, the loudness is related to the medium the sound travels through. Let's see, sound waves traveling through gas, such as the atmosphere, are louder than those passing through solids or liquids. Traveling through gas, such as the atmosphere. What is atmosphere? Atmosphere is the layer of air or other gases that is around a planet, okay? Sphere is a shape, right? It's a shape like a ball, 3D round shape. Sphere means an area, okay? Are louder than those passing through solids or liquids. Finally, sound waves can reflect off objects, which is why you can sometimes hear echoes. Sound waves can reflect off. What does that mean, reflect off? What does reflect mean? Reflect means to hit a surface, and that surface sending the thing back. Do you understand? Reflecting. Reflecting means to hit a surface and to be sent away, sent back from that surface. Okay? It's like bouncing off. Reflect off. What does off mean? Off has the meaning of being detached. Alright? No longer touching the thing. Which is why you can sometimes hear echoes. What's an echo? Echo is a sound which is reflected off a surface, such as a wall or something else. Let's get to the next part, my viewers.
Moving on to radio waves. Radio waves are part of the electromagnetic energy spectrum. They have the lowest frequency and the longest wavelength in that spectrum. In the electromagnetic energy spectrum, a long wavelength and low frequency mean less energy, while a high frequency and short wavelength mean high energy, such as what X-rays have. Radio waves have many of the same characteristics as sound waves. They have speed, direction, and frequency and follow the other common principles of waves. They can reflect off objects and can pass through all mediums. However, Unlike sound waves, radio waves can move through a vacuum. This is why astronauts in space are able to talk with mission control back on Earth.
Okay. What is this part about? This part is about radio waves, and the professor explains the electromagnetic energy spectrum. You see, that's why I explained that first. It's important. And the characteristics of radio waves, and then the characteristic which is different from the sound wave is that radio waves can move through vacuum. Moving on to radio waves. Radio waves are part of the electromagnetic energy spectrum. They have the lowest frequency and the longest wavelength in that spectrum. Okay? As I have drawn you the picture, see, radio wave is at this end, which means longest wavelength and the lowest frequency of all the spectrum. Radio wave. What does spectrum mean? Spectrum is the range of colors that you can see when the light passes through a glass prism, okay, glass prism, or a drop of water, okay. So when the light comes this way, this is a prism, and the lights are like distributed or dispersed, okay? And what you get here is the spectrum of light. And the rainbow shows the colors of the spectrum. The spectrum I just talked about is the spectrum of light, not the whole electromagnetic spectrum, okay? But in the electromagnetic energy spectrum, a long wavelength and low frequency mean less energy, while a high frequency and short wavelength mean high energy, such as what X-rays have. I explained this, right? In the electromagnetic energy spectrum, a long wavelength and low frequency mean less energy, while, what does that mean, while? You use while when you want to talk about something that contrasts the content in the main clause. While a high frequency and short wavelength mean high energy, such as what X-rays have. Okay, did you understand that? Radio waves have many of the same characteristics as sound waves. Okay, so the professor is going to talk about the similar characteristics to the sound waves. They have speed, direction, and frequency and follow the other common principles of waves. Follow the other common principles of waves. Other common, what does that mean? Common in this case means they share the characteristic, okay? Common principle, shared principle. What's a principle? Principle is a basic law or rule by which something works. They can reflect off objects and can pass through all mediums. However, unlike sound waves, radio waves can move through a vacuum. Okay, this is why astronauts in space are able to talk with mission control back on Earth. What does this mean? Because the radio waves can move through vacuum, which is the space when we go when we go out of space, it's vacuum, okay? But the radio waves travel through vacuum, so they can the astronauts and the mission control can communicate. This is why astronauts. What's an astronaut? Astronaut is a person who is trained to travel in a spacecraft. Astro means what? It means a star. Astronauts in space are able to talk with mission control. What is mission control? Mission control is the group of people who are in charge of a flight in a spacecraft, okay? Or the place they work is called the mission control. What does mission mean? Mission is a journey made on a spacecraft.
To talk with mission control back on Earth.
Do radio waves have sound?
That's a tricky question. We use radio waves for communication, but the human ear cannot hear them. We require mechanical devices, such as radios, to transform the radio waves into audible sound waves. That's the basic principle of radio communication. Also, just like sound waves, low wavelength radio waves lose intensity with distance. That's why you can't hear your favorite radio station when you move far from its source. Shorter radio waves, however, can reach greater distances by bouncing off the ionosphere. That's why long-range communication devices are called shortwave radios. Okay.
So what is this part about? The student asked, do radio waves have sound? And the professor says it's a difficult question to answer. Why? Because radio waves, people use it for communication, but they can't directly hear it. They have to use a device which changes the radio waves to sounds, okay? And then she talks about another characteristic of the radio wave, which is the wavelength, okay? Short, long wavelength radio waves get weaker when they travel long distance, but shorter radio waves can reach a greater distance. That's what she's talking about. Do radio waves have sound? That's a tricky question. What does tricky mean? Tricky means it's difficult to deal with or understand. Tricky. What's a trick? Trick is an action that is intended to deceive people. We use radio waves for communication, but the human ear cannot hear them. We use radio waves for communication. What is communication? Communication is the exchange or sharing of information. But the human ear cannot hear them. We require mechanical devices such as radios to transform the radio waves into audible sound waves. We require. What does require mean? Require means need. We need mechanical devices. What's a device? Device is an object which does a kind of work, all right? The verb devise has a meaning of thinking, to think of an idea, and design, that is devising. Device is a noun for that.